stiff as a board, light as a feather, 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 stiff as a board.
Surprise! Oh, really?
Nice hearing from you, Carlos.
The 1990s were a special era of formative films for many of us dark-side kiddos. 1993 gave us The Crow, the seminal film for goth kids. Then, this little horror fan with a goth heart was still feeling out of place sometimes, like I hadn't fully found my people just yet. Spring 1996 rolled around, and weekend outings meant picking something to do between being dragged to mini golf or bowling or willingly and happily going to go see a movie. There were a few options at the time, but the craft just yelled my name so loudly with its poster. Convinced Dad to take me to see the craft mission. This mission turned out to be not at all that difficult, and I saw the craft not long after its opening weekend. I was hooked, I was in love, and I had found my people. So off to the theater we went, and I loved every minute of it. My theater companions, well, not so much. That led to picking up the soundtrack on cassette, and then the film on VHS when it was released. I had to buy them for myself at 15, so funds were limited and I had to basically save for them. Still, soon these joined The Crow on my limited shelf of films and clashed a bit sitting next to Rapid Fire and Miss Doubtfire, but I didn't care. I wore out both the soundtrack cassette and the VHS, but they made me happy. I didn't care if I had to babysit a bunch to replace them. Am I a witch now? Not really, no. Do I know a ton more about witches? Yes. Did reading up on witches and witchcraft start because of The Craft? Absolutely. The Craft was a hugely influential film on teenage me, and it's still a favorite to this day. The Craft tells the story of a teenage girl who moves to Los Angeles where her father and stepmother decide it would be a better location for their little family. There she meets a bunch of new people, not all of them nice. And she ends up befriending the school's weirdos, the outcasts, the ones people pick on, but also the ones who attract her with their energy and accept her as she is. The film opens on a ritual. There's 3 teenage girls participating. Then we get a very mid-1990s intro, all flashy images, almost television series-like. Then we get to meet a 4th teenage girl and her parents, soon finding out that they are her father and stepmother. And then a man shows up out of nowhere with a snake. And then there's Dad to the rescue.
Get the hell out of here! What the hell? Sarah, you alright?
Cut to first day at her new school, and our lead Sarah is going even though she doesn't have a uniform yet and her father is allowing her to stay home.
Just until you got a school uniform.
It's a Catholic school, uniforms, nuns, and all. There are our 3 witches. Enter the boys who are to be the bullies and love interests. The 3 witches talk about needing a 4th. I wonder who that could be. There's a French class that is surprisingly decent for a teen film. It's a typical classroom. The new girl speaks French. Does it matter though? Not really. She's soon seen standing and spinning a pencil on its sharpened tip without touching it. She might just be perfect to be the 4th witch. More school stuff, more talk. Lunchtime comes and the 90s hot dude talks to Sarah. His name is Chris, and he gives her the lowdown on everyone at school, or rather, the ones the film will focus on. He's flirty. Sarah ends up checking out his football game when the witches show up. Then the witches and her all go shopping and test Sarah. There, the shopkeeper notices Sarah's ring.
What a beautiful ring. It was your mother's.
She's possibly an important character. There is talk that Sarah could be a natural witch. We then get to see the Snake Man again. He's an ominous one. He gets hit by a car. The girls run, thinking they made it happen because they finally found their 4th. Of course, from here it becomes wild and goes pure 90s, but for those of you watching that haven't seen it, this is your chance. So, who's behind this dream of a teenage witch film? The folks behind The Craft are Peter Filardi, who wrote the story, and Andrew Fleming, who wrote the script, and also directed. Filardi was better known at the time for writing the medical spook fest, Flatliners, a film filmed to the brim with atmosphere and creepy setup, as well as some work on MacGyver, and who followed The Craft with the yet-to-be-released excellent 2000 film, Ricky Six, which also deals with the occult and teenagers, but in a much, much different way. Andrew Fleming, for his part, had previously worked on the 1988 horror film Bad Dreams and the 1994 romantic comedy Threesome. His credits, much like Filardi's, were limited before they made The Craft. They both follow with this interesting work, Filardi in a more limited fashion than Fleming, which is unfortunate. Also noteworthy is the presence of Graham Revell as the score composer. His work is very well known in the horror and goth film industry with scores for Child's Play 2, The Crush, The Crow, Tank Girl, Strange Days, From Dusk Till Dawn, etc. If it was fun, dark, and cool, he scored it basically. In front of the camera, the cast is composed of a lot of familiar faces to those who watched a lot of teen entertainment in the 90s. Robin Tunney plays Sarah, and most folks going to see The Craft at the time would have known her from Encino Man, Frogs, and Empire Records, but she also had television credits aplenty. She was definitely on her way up.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
Yeah, we know who you are.
Playing Nancy is Firuza Balk, who was the most well-versed in the occult and witchcraft at the time, and who the public knew from Return to Oz, The Worst Witch, Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead, and a bunch more film and television credits. Playing Bonnie is Neve Campbell, known to Canadian audiences from the series Catwalk, and to the rest of the world from her appearances on Are You Afraid of the Dark, Kung Fu The Legend Continues, Tales from the Wild, Mad TV, and from the already going on promos for her next feature, this little slasher film called Scream. As Rochelle, Rachel True rounds out the four leads. Most folks at the time would have known True's television shows like The Cosby Show, Renegade, Beverly Hills 90210, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and a bunch more. The ladies had creds already and haven't stopped working since The Craft. As the love interest bully victim, Skeet Ulrich was a bit of a lesser-known face, but was about to be everywhere following his involvement in Scream alongside Campbell. He was newer to the biz, but definitely about to leave a mark. A few of the others in the cast should look familiar, but will be left to the game of, oh my god, who is that? They look so familiar, on your next rewatch of The Craft. Now, let's talk numbers for a minute. The film was made for a decent budget of $15 million USD and raked in $55.6 million USD at the box office. Something of a good return on investment here.
100.
Wait, are you saying that this goes to us?
Some of us, or rather me and some friends, definitely participated in that, and in its home video success, seeing it in theaters, buying it on VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray.
What do you know? I have money.
It's a love or hate it type of movie, one that once you fall for it, you just want to have it around forever. At this point, there's also, and of course, a remake reboot that happened in 2020, and for most Witch fans, the original didn't have much love. To no one's surprise, really.
Oh.
Rewatching The Craft as an adult who could easily have a teenager as a child, the film hits differently, of course, but its message of careful what you wish for mixed with don't mess with the powers you don't understand is still relevant, and the film itself is still entertaining. Some of the sequences are more impactful today than they were in 1996, and some of them have of course lost some impact not being a teen anymore. Overall, the film is still a fun watch, and should now come with a warning about suicide depictions, sexual assault, and a few other things. That being said, it's still a very decent watch overall. The performances are solid to this day. The lead cast is fun to watch as teens who most of us have grown with on our screens. The witchcraft is decently researched, so it has aged fairly well. The special effects still hold up this many years later with just a few computer effects that just don't work anymore. In terms of a rating, these days, adult me gives this a solid 8 out of 10. Of course, teenage me would have given it a 12 out of 10. Overall, The Craft has aged fairly well, with some true 1990s fashion thrown in for good measure, which means it's clearly due for a comeback with the clothes being all the rage again. It's a film that's entertaining and a good watch. The perfect selection for a cold, rainy October night.
What it would be like if there were 4 girls in high school and they really were witches and they really were able to tap into some otherworldly power.
We don't fit in, we're the misfits of our school, and I think this is why we've sort of bonded together.
I wanted to make a movie about young women coming into their sexuality.
Anything that's dangerous is potentially exciting, especially when you're 17.
So watch out for those weirdos.
We are the weirdos, mister.
The art or the craft can be incredibly beautiful and incredibly giving like nature. It can also be it can be cruel.
And I just shaved my head for a different movie, so my hair was about 1 inch long. And I've talked to Andy Fleming about it since, and he said he thought I looked like a little freak.
The first time Neve came in, she was very quiet, she was very unassuming, and she She did a really good reading.
Every time I went in, I never saw anyone else reading for my part, which as an actor is kind of fun because then you can envision it as yours.
I used to believe that you're born, you live, you die, that's it. But I have witnessed things that have proven different.
So I'm not one to put anything down and say it's not possible.